project. We're here, obviously, to introduce Don Kardong, the founder of Bloomsday, and the men's marathon runner in the 1976 Summer Olympics in Montreal, Canada. Don is also currently the race director since 2005, and he's going to share insights on the Bloomsday race, its failures, successes, and a little bit of his personal history as well. So please welcome Don to the stage.
Thank you, Taylor. Well, I'm going to cover Bloomsday from a variety of different angles, and so some of it probably will be of particular interest to some of you and not to others, but hopefully a little bit of something for everyone in this. So it's funny to me because in a lot of ways, Bloomsday seems kind of accidental to me the way it got started, and it kind of goes back to, as Taylor was mentioning, I was in the 1976 Olympics in the marathon. Give it a try. I was actually the last person in the world to use a slide projector. So, well, here we go. Okay. So here we go. The Lilac Bloomsday Run started in 1977, and like I was saying, I was in the 1976 Olympics, so I always have to start the history of Bloomsday with that. And you can probably spot me in the starting crowd. There I am right there. I'm one of the taller marathon runners, so I don't know why everybody else is in 6'3", but there I am at the start of the marathon, Montreal, and at the time I was an elementary school teacher here in Spokane. I taught 6th grade, and so I was not looking to start an event like Bloomsday. I was training to try to make the Olympics and try to win a medal. This kind of shows you, this is at the end of 26 miles of running, a little over 2 hours, and that's me, and that's about 3 seconds behind the guy who got the bronze medal. So these were the results from 1976. An East German, Waldemar Czerpinski was the winner. Frank Shorter, the American runner who had been the gold medalist in 1972, got the silver medal in 1976. I had a great battle with Carl Lismont. He's from Belgium, but I didn't have quite enough, I guess, there at the end, and he beat me by 3 seconds. So I didn't get a medal, but I did have a fair amount of attention, and like I say, I was an elementary school teacher at the time, and so when I got back to the airport here in Spokane, a bunch of the kids from my school came out to greet me. I don't know who this guy is. Looks like the Unabomber to me. And people really did dress like this back in 1976. At least I did. So I got kind of a fair amount of attention in the Spokane media at the time, and people knew I'd been in the Olympics. And but there was no big running event in Spokane. There was a lot of smaller events around town, some organized by the Heart Association, and that was about it at the time. There was a lot of interest in Spokane with running generally because we had one of the best runners ever to come out of a high school, and that was Jerry Lingard of Rogers High School. But there was no big run. And actually, you've all kind of probably got used to the idea that there are big city runs everywhere. But at the time, in 1976, there really weren't very many. There was one in San Francisco Bay Area, Beta Breakers. At that time, probably had 5,000 runners. That was huge. That was the biggest in the world, I think. There were two that I went to in 1976 in the summer and the fall. One was the Peachtree Road Race in Atlanta. It had about 2,000 runners at that time. And then the other was in West Virginia, they had about 1,000 runners. And they were both kind of events that have become common, like Bloomsday, which is they had some really top runners in them, and then they had a lot of people that were just trying to get in shape and stay in shape. And they also did what's become common is that they started and/or finished downtown. Prior to that, most big, well, there weren't that many big races, but the ones that did exist tended to be out in the country where they didn't get in the way of traffic. So to have a big run downtown, people running to the downtown core was kind of a new thing. I put his photograph up here because at the time, Mayor Rogers played a very, very important role in what, again, it was kind of the accidental start of Bloomsday. As I mentioned, there were some small runs that took place around Spokane, and one of them I went to down by the Bowl and Pitcher along the Spokane River. It had maybe 150, 200 runners in it. And a reporter from the newspaper came down there, and she said, this is pretty interesting, all these people that are doing your sport. What do you think of all these runners, 200 runners? And I said, well, I think this is great, but I think we should have one of these downtown runs like I saw in Atlanta and in Charleston, West Virginia. So she put an article in the newspaper and quoted me as having said that. And I probably wouldn't have gone much farther than that. By accident, I got onto the elevator at City Hall with Mayor David Rogers. And the mayor said to me, there were three of us on the elevator, myself, Mayor Rogers, and a friend of mine. And the mayor said, well, you're that Olympic runner, right? I said, that's right. He said, well, I read what you said in the newspaper. And he says, I grew up in Boston. I remember the Boston Marathon coming through our neighborhood. And I think this would be a great thing for Spokane. So that was about the extent of our conversation. At the end of it, I got off the elevator. And my friend said, well, I'm with an organization called the Spokane JCs, the Junior Chamber of Commerce. And this might be a good project for the JCs. And that's really how Bloomsday started. The Spokane JCs were the organizing group. We found some sponsors willing to help us out, and a whole bunch of great people decided to help make this happen. But I always, I don't know if you'll ever meet ex-mayor now, Rogers. He doesn't take any credit at all for this, but I remember it pretty well. This is a poster from our first year. And this was such a new event that we had to explain it. So we had all this text to explain what we were doing. We had my teammate, Frank Shorter, came in. And here's a great time to run about 8 miles. 1:30 in the afternoon. It was one of the hottest days that we've ever had for Bloomsday. And we ran at 1:30 in the afternoon. It's the first time I saw a lot of people with heat stroke. So over the next few years, we started to get smart and move the start of Bloomsday earlier and earlier until we got it to where it is now at 9 o'clock. But that first year, this is about how many people were in Bloomsday the first year. And because they're all sitting on the steps down by the floating, what was the floating stage. I can't remember if it's there now or not, still there. But outside by the Opera House, and we assembled there for some reason, I don't remember why. And that's about everybody that was in that group. So we had about 1,200 people finish that first year. And now people will say, well, only 1,200 people that first year. Well, for us, we were stunned that we had that many. To have that many people in road race in Spokane, when prior to that, the most we'd had in any given race was probably a couple hundred, was really amazing. So this is the very first year going down Riverside. I only led for a little while, and if you notice, there were cars on the other side of the street, so we didn't even have the whole street that first year. But that's our first year at Bloomsday. I show this map, as some of you hopefully have done Bloomsday before. This was the map from the first 3 years. We started downtown by the Opera House. We kind of went up to Riverside, went across here, and then across the Maple Street Bridge. What we do now is we keep going down this way and out this way. Well, that first year we went across the Maple Street Bridge, did a little loop, went out on Summit,